Hello guys, welcome to the Trading Parrot. Many of you have been asking me what is the CPR indicator, how to use it, where to get it, how to set it up if you want to have it in your own chart. And in today's video, we're going to have an overlook, not just at those aspects, but also how it can be used with Bitcoin to find an edge when it comes to intraday trading. So this is how the CPR looks, and at the moment I have it on a daily chart on Bitcoin. You can see that pretty much it looks like horizontal lines in white. Those are called the pivots. Then you have the green lines at the top that are called resistance lines, and then at the bottom we have support line formed by these red ones. Every single month I see different CPR levels. That's the strategy I am using, but I have to make you aware that CPR not just works as a monthly indicator, it can also be used even for daily, 4 hour, whichever time frame that you want. I just prefer to use the monthly one because it gives me an expectation on the month, the price action. It helps me as a leading indicator to see where are we going. So with this just is an introduction, but we are also going to look into how to get the indicator. But before we get into that part of the video, we're going to ask ChatGPT, what is CPR? What is the CPR indicator? And let's see what we find just by having a very quick look at this. So the CPR stands from Central Pivot Range and is an indicator of technical analysis used to identify key price level supports and resistance. It does it automatically for you. It looks into the past performance, obviously, and there is different components of the CPR. You have first the pivot point, you have the top central pivot and the bottom central pivot. And these are the three lines in the middle, and then you have the resistance and the support at the same time. There are some different strategies that you can use the CPR for. My particular strategy is a combination of what I've been hearing other people doing, and I have put a little bit of my own ingredients. At this point in time, I'm not fully sure what parts of the strategy of the model that I typically call the CPR model. It's actually my own ownership in which parts I put from my own observation, but I'm going to make sure I share the way I do it. Obviously, it's not financial advice, and no indicator really can offer you an absolute guarantee. So if you're new to trading and you're expecting that CPR is going to give you the perfect entries, the perfect exits, that means that you're probably new to trading and you're seeing things in the wrong way. So first of all, let's see how to get the indicator. And I want you to get your laptop, get your account on TradingView. You probably can use a free account, but if you want to upgrade to get more indicators in your chart, there is a nice discount in the description to open a new account on TradingView. So let's get rid of this one and let's search by the author that I prefer to use, which is KGS. So if you search in indicators on TradingView and you find this one that has roughly 6,000 likes at the moment, you're going to find pivots, points, CPR with MWT high and low. So let's load that, and the first time that you load this, it's going to look a little bit scary because it's going to show you everything that the CPR has to offer. And in my particular strategy, I don't use everything. So I'm going to go and select the settings and remove the daily, remove tomorrow, remove weekly, and remove everything else apart from monthly pivots. And that's going to make it look immediately very similar to what we were talking about. Next, we are also going to change the style of this. We want to see more prominent the different lines, particularly when we zoom out. It's difficult to see, I find difficult to see the blue lines. So I changed them to white, And you can see that this is the monthly pivot, the central pivot, which I call them all pivots really, but this is called BC and TC. I typically forget about that. So you're gonna find in my videos, I refer to this as the pivots, uh, resistance at the top and support at the bottom. And I have my chart on the daily time frame on BTC, and I'm going to go through a little bit of the history of the price action on Bitcoin. I'm going to start from roughly around here, and I'm going to give you how I've been reading the model. And you're going to notice that many times it's going to be wrong. Many times it's going to give us an alert that there's going to be a pullback, and sometimes it doesn't play out, and sometimes it does, just like with any other indicator. And you might be wondering then why you use this if it doesn't give you 100%. Because I don't use it by itself. So I use it together with Bitcoin seasonality. I use it with liquidation pools. And if you've been watching my channel, you're going to understand that I give a space to CPR in my channel, but I don't take all the decisions based on this. It definitely can give us a huge hedge. In many times, it's CPR what takes the spotlight of what called the best outcome for the month, and sometimes it's other indicators and CPR we kind of leave it behind because we don't necessarily take the advice that is given us. At this point in time, we have the crash of COVID. This happened in March 2020. And we are going to start from roughly around here. And the first thing that you're going to notice is that the CPR pivots at that point in time in history is very constrained. It's very tight. And what this says is that there's going to be an impulsive move coming in the next months. So if you were in April and you were seeing the first candles, imagine that we are in April. So let's do it with bar replay so you see what you will see at that point. So let's start from March in here, and you can see that we are already have hit the three levels of support of the month. So this was an extreme bearish month because rarely you touch all supports or all resistance. In this case, we got rejected right there by the pivot. That is something that happens quite frequently. The central pivot has a huge element of influence in the price. So let's progress. You can see in here that at the end of March, you can typically forecast more or less what's going to happen. So before you print these lines of April, when you are still sitting in the last days of March, you could say that after this impulsive move, typically the months after, you get the market to go back into constricting the market, right? So you have expansion, and then you have times where there's less volatility. And this is constantly flipping between volatility, non-volatility. So after having had huge volatility, you should expect a month that is more tight. And that's precisely what happens. The price action happened around here. So you're going to expect to see the pivot somewhere there. And the first thing that we look at the beginning of the month is we touch the pivot. So this is no longer a virgin month. That means that the price doesn't necessarily need to come back and touch it. Every month, pretty much every month, you touch at least once one of the pivots, right? It doesn't need to be all of them, but it's rare that you cross a month and you never touch the white lines. Like you can see here, there's a virgin month, you never touch the pivots, and eventually I think you come back to that area, right? So you close that gap. That also happens very frequently. So pay attention to months that are virgin. Those leave gaps in the past, and pay attention that most of the time you can pretty much guarantee 99% that you come back and test it during the month, not many months after. In this case, it's an exception. Is probably less than 5% that you're gonna get that behavior. Most months, you're gonna start from the pivots, or you're gonna go straight to touch the pivots multiple times, and that's the case as well here in March. So here we are in March. We have very tight lines, and let's see what happens after the price touches once again the pivot and it continues with the impulsive move. You can see that it was saying that the first resistance was 9K and it went straight to that resistance, saw a rejection, and here's the first outcome. At the end of April, we touched the first resistance. And one of the things that the model says, and I cannot tell you whether this came from me or I took it from someone else because I've been using CPR for more than 4 years or maybe 5 years, is that if you touch the first resistance, that it gives you a good hedge for thinking that we are entering a bull trend. And you will expect in the next months to continue that uptrend. You know, uptrend tends to stick around, downtrend too. So the trend is your friend. And in this case, we touched that. We started with a virgin month. We went to the top and we were still virgin there and we came back to test the pivot. So that's the most typical outcome. How would you trade this? Well, if you enter in here, this is the daily time frame. If you go back to the 4 hour or 1 hour and you see weakness, you could say, well, we are in a virgin month. It wouldn't be weird that we go back and test the pivots. So you could take a short there. Of course, um, you need to use risk management in here because that could continue going to the remaining levels of resistance at the top and you can get wrecked big if you don't use a stop loss somewhere here. We're not going to talk about risk management in this video. We're just going to focus on the outcomes that you can use, the things that the CPR give you for free to understand what can happen next. So we got then a second month that we touch the resistance that is bullish. We came back to the pivots, not necessarily bearish. Testing support is a good thing, is healthy. And we continue. Next month, again, we touch the first resistance. We come back down to the pivots multiple times. Here we are in June. And we could argue that there is a case for the price to continue going higher just because we keep touching that first resistance. Don't be surprised if at 1 month we don't, but you get the likelihood on your favor if you continue using the trend as your friend. And in here, what we are seeing is continuation. And this month was very bullish. We went to 11K. That was in August. Doing this, touching the top one is extremely bullish. Obviously, sometimes you can go beyond that point, but what I typically say about CPR is these are the levels that are on the table for a month. So if things go very bullish, we can go all the way to 12K. If things are very bearish, we can go to 6K. So that is the full range. People sometimes use those things to run a grid bot. If you do so, make sure that you don't start the grid bot from this point because obviously it's very overextended to be there. It will be wiser to consider to enter on a grid bot from support rather than entering at resistance. At least the vast majority of the cases, you will be better off doing that. So that is not an advice financial, but is the way I will do it. Continue with the month of September. We know that in September there was some bearish price action. Here there is an exception, right? We're going to touch resistance here. And if I remember right, the next month we get a pullback. We touch the first resistance. It should have been a month where we go higher. But instead of that, we entered the month. We couldn't hold the pivots. The pivots were flagged as tightening. That means that an impulsive move is about to happen. That impulsive move, we don't know if it's going to be to the upside or downside. We got it in here and we got already a move of almost 100% up and we're getting another tightening call in here and we are in a bull market. We get this correction in September and we know seasonality, October says things could improve, particularly if September is in the red. We can see now that the price is holding there and here we cross the pivots and we are going straight up to the first resistance and here's the most bullish months of the previous bull market. This is crazy because we get 1 month getting almost to the third level, the next month again to the third level, and we come here for a retest of an actual level of resistance, and things continue going higher. You get the point. I'm gonna fast forward. I'm gonna let this ride a little bit longer, and I wanna see the point where we get exhaustion. Okay, so all these months we are touching green lines. We continue going higher. We touch green lines. That is all bullish. We still don't see decent weakness from the point of view of CPR. I'm not thinking about price action, candles, nothing. I'm just purely focusing 100% on what only CPR is telling us now. Let's continue. We can see now that we have made it to the first level of resistance this month. We got once again a tightening pivot. They are all overlapping at 45K. Let's see what can happen next. And I will say this month we see the first weakness. Why? Because we got multiple months that we made it to the third, second, third, first. Okay, this is just a word of warning. This is not necessarily it's the end. It can continue going higher, but if you were wise, you will start paying attention at this point when it comes to CPR. You will think, wait a minute, we've been in an impulsive move for quite a long time. Now we are getting to the first only. And the month after, we are seeing that we are failing to even get to the first one. And what comes after is that during that month, we didn't touch the top. We got to 64.7 and we already touched the first support. For the first time in this rally, we touched support. Touching support, not having managed to hit the resistance, means that something burnt is cooking at the moment, and we need to start paying a lot more attention right now, and we can see why, right? At this point, something larger broke in the structure of the CPR model. Another month that we don't make it to the resistance, and there we are, we hit 30K immediately. Now we are probably getting that dead cat bounce. Let's see how high it can hit, and it's very humbly moving up. We made it just to the pivots. The strength at this point was just enough to get to pivots, not even to the second pivot, just to lose virginity. That's it. Here, tightening candle, it means that volatility is coming once again, and we can read the model in the opposite way now. We are in July and we didn't touch the first support. Just in the same way here, we didn't touch the first resistance. Now we are not able to touch the first support. That means that the bears are losing control. And immediately we can see that we get an impulsive move of 43% within the same month. This is the month of July. Let's see how far we can get away with that. Yeah, pretty far, right? We get now almost to the second. Here we are getting to the first, and we touch support. Here we have a fake out, right? Because we are seeing the same signal that we saw in the month of April, where we didn't touch the resistance, we touched the support. That was the call for the collapse. And in here, we're seeing a similar story, very similar, but not the same. We touch the resistance, we touch the support, we stay goofing around here for 1 month. That is the month of September, which is typically bearish. And talking now about seasonality, October. So people didn't listen to this call in here, at least not the same way they did in April. They ignore it and the rally continue. And it made it to the third level, and then we make it here in between. We are in the month of December. There should be a top somewhere here. We again don't touch the first one of resistance. That's typically bearish, and that's the beginning of the bear market. I'm not gonna continue going on. I could continue going on and on and on until the day of today, but you get the point. Most of the time you can take away something very enlightening when it comes to CPR monthly levels. So I hope this is going to help your trading. And if it does, leave me a comment down below if you have further questions as well. And if you want to support the channel, have a look at the description. My favorite products are there. Today, I'm releasing my campaign with Bluffin. Bluffin is an exchange that I'm starting to use myself that is quite good because in terms of KYC, it's very easy to open an account. I already have multiple accounts and it didn't take me more than 1 minute. If you open it with my link, you get a bonus, you get discount for trading, and you are helping the channel to continue putting out content like this for free. See you in the next one. Bye bye.